All right, I'm going to admit all. All right, everybody's getting on here. And as you guys get on, go ahead and rename yourselves. It looks like, again, it is telling me I have about 7 Chelsea Leniards on here. So unless all my family is logged on under my name, go ahead and change your name, your first name. Yeah. And if everybody wants to type in where you are tuning in from. All right, we're gonna give it another minute or 30 seconds or so. You're welcome, Lisa.
Wait, we're going to stay.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm still admitting a few people. So again, just go ahead and in the top right corner with the 3 dots, you can change your name. So I know who we have on here and whose beautiful faces I'm looking at right now. Because I'm seeing some faces that don't look like me that say Chelsea Leniart. All right, let's see. All right, we got people from Baltimore. Welcome, awesome. Long Beach Island. Alrighty. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get started. Again, it is so awesome being able to see everybody's faces. If you want to see everybody's face, you guys under the view section can go to gallery or go to speaker if you just want to see when me and Marta are talking. Totally up to you. I'm on gallery so I can see all of you guys. I see Miss Jackie down there. All right. Okay. Well, I will keep admitting people as they come in, but I just want to say hello and welcome everybody back to another virtual wine club release. Believe it or not, we have actually been doing this for a year now. So who would have thought 1 year later we would be on screen still doing virtuals? And I know I speak for not only myself, but I speak for Marta when I say we are so glad to be back. It's definitely been a while and we've missed all your faces. So it is absolutely an honor to be back talking to you guys. And because we have a few new faces here, I'm going to go ahead and say we just, Marta and I will start with a brief introduction for anybody who has not done our virtuals before. My name is Chelsea, and I've got a few other Chelseas on there with me, but I have been part of the hospitality team here with Scheid Vineyards for a little over 2.5 years. I've been on my wine journey for coming up on 4 years. And I have to say, I absolutely love being part of the Scheid team. We've got so many fun varieties that we get to try, different climates. Monterey County is just such a special place. So we're always getting to do new and exciting things, including these virtuals. So that's a little bit about why I'm here on screen. And I might know a teeny bit about wine, but for the most part, I leave the expertise and the hard questions to Miss Marta. So I will let you, Marta, go ahead and just say a little bit about yourself and why you are here on everybody's screen today.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. We're really very happy to be here with all of you to be able to share some of our wines. So my story began decades ago. I fell in love with wine working a harvest in the Corbières region in the south of France. I just love the fact that you were taking one agricultural product and turning it into another agricultural product that you could have for years to come. I came back from France. I went to UC Davis. I got my master's, and I have been making wine in Monterey County for the last 40 years. So as a winemaker, I've done lots of different things, everything from berry sampling at harvest, washing equipment and tanks, driving the forklift, a lot of the unromantic things that you think about that it takes to make a really great bottle of wine. Winemaking is kind of an industrially creative job. And it really takes on a life of its own this time of year. There's just so much going on. So today we are excited to share some of our wines with you and happy to be here all together.
Yes, thank you, Marta. So basically today what we're doing is we are tasting through 3 of our wines that we recently released. We're going to do our Viognier and our GSM, which comes from the estate selection. And then we'll also be tasting the 2018 Kurtz Cabernet. We want to do the GSM and the Viognier really because we want to talk a little bit about the Rhone varietal, which is where all those wines come from. And then we're going to talk about Kurtz Cab because we thought it was a fun story. Tell you guys a little bit about that vineyard and about Kurt, the man himself. So we want this to be super interactive. This is for you guys. You know, we definitely do these virtuals from people visiting or tuning in from all 50 states, right? But also even for locals, because these virtuals give us an opportunity to see and talk to a winemaker. And even those that come into the tasting room don't get the opportunity to ask winemakers questions every day. So this is for you. We want you to be interactive. Type any questions you have into the chat. This whole time, I will do my best to keep on top of the chat and let Marta know if you guys have any questions as we taste through the wines. And the only other thing I need to say is that I wish I was at the Great House table right now because that is quite a spread there. So I'll be happy to hear later on what you guys are pairing your wines tonight with. So happy to have you guys. And I do think that pretty much is going to cover it for the housekeeping.
Great. So can we open some of the Viognier here?
Okay, let's go ahead and start with some of our 2020 Viognier. Kind of hard to see there. So this is the 2020 Viognier from our San Lucas vineyard. This is really a beautiful aromatic varietal that we do all in stainless steel. And the reason we do that is we don't want any oak influence or any malolactic influence. We really want the grape and the fresh fruit characteristics of the grape itself to kind of shine. So if you guys poured yourself some of that, oh, so aromatic. I absolutely love this. I'm for sure getting pear, a little stone fruit, maybe a little apple. What about you, Marta?
I definitely get the pear, the stone fruits, the peaches, the apricot kind of flavors, and also a lot of floral notes, honeysuckle. It's just really lovely and very aromatic.
Yeah, definitely the floral. Like as soon as you said that, I get the honey to that honeysuckle. And then it has to me, it has a creamy mouthfeel to it, which you don't always get with those stainless steel wines. You know, it has this nice body to it that's kind of coating my tongue. Right now, I'm thinking that this would be a nice appetizer with a nice fresh like pear and goat cheese salad or something along those lines.
Oh, that sounds delicious, really. And you know, mouthfeel is a term that a lot of people use when they're talking about Viognier. And one of the descriptors that's often used is a fat feeling or that fullness that you get in the mouth. And I often get that with this variety. And although this is a white variety, it has a lot of depth of flavor, and it can lend itself to all kinds of pairings. For instance, if you wanted to accentuate some of the aromatic components of the wine, you could try pairing it with a pork loin cooked with some peaches, or a stir fry, or with Chelsea on her porch.
You were always just trying to get over to my porch, Marta.
I know, invitations are hard to get.
Thread I put out, or the free wine you're getting. I don't know. You're always looking for a ticket to my place. Okay, so as we all kind of sip on this, let's just talk about the grape Viognier. And if I am correct, I think this grape was actually almost completely extinct not that long ago.
Yeah, in the 1960s, there was only 15 acres left in the world, and it was in a very small area of France. But currently there are over 40,000 acres planted worldwide, and we have about 2,500 acres in California. And Scheid Farms, just about 3 acres, so not very much.
So where then is, like, let's talk a little bit about where Viognier is originally from.
It was originally from the Northern Rhone in a small appellation called Condrieu. Chateau Grier farms the entire appellation, which is just a little bit under 10 acres.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and we haven't done this for like 6 months, so everybody is just going to have to bear with me as I screen share for you guys. We can just play a drinking game. Every time I mess up something technical, you all have to take a drink of your wine.
I like that. We're down with that.
There's a good chance that everybody could be getting pretty drunk tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and start with showing you guys just a map. Let's see. That's what we got today. Okay, so I think this map is kind of important just to give everybody a sense of where the Rhone Valley is when we're talking about France in general. So, you know, it's obviously a little bit, the Rhone Valley is going to be a little bit east, south of Bordeaux, which most people are more familiar with. But then once you guys, so it's right there, that's where it is in France. But I'll go to the next one. And then this is going to kind of break down the Rhone Valley. So you can see the Northern Rhone and the Southern Rhone. And then on the right there is going to be really a little bit more on the Northern Rhone. So that might help while Marta talks a little bit about it.
So you can see that it follows the river very closely, and it's fairly steep alongside the river. And it is thought that in roughly 281 AD that the Roman Emperor Probus brought Viognier from Dalmatia, which is a part of Croatia now, to the Rhone Valley. Viognier is the only variety that is permitted to be grown in the Condrieu region. And I think we have a picture of Chateau Grier to share with everyone.
Okay, I now am just going to transport myself there.
There, she has beamed herself to Chateau Grier, yes. And yes, we're looking for those lawn chairs on that little grassy knoll there.
Yes, I am down to, here, let me get like almost all the way out of the way. I'm down to swap my porch and bring my little fire pit and the 2 chairs right there on that flat surface.
Yeah,
and
beautiful
I think
view.
Viognier from there might be pretty good. Let's go ahead and see if I can take this off, or there's a good chance I'm going to be at this chateau for the rest of.
That wouldn't be bad.
The rest of this virtual here. Okay, perfect. So we always talk, I think, especially about Pinot Noir, you know, here in Monterey, we're always talking about Pinot Noir and how finicky the grape Pinot is. But Viognier is not really a walk in the park either, is it? When we're talking about growing it.
No, it's not really easy to grow. Although it is drought resistant, it is prone to a lot of different diseases, and it can have really unpredictable yields. And this is often due to a pollination or uneven fruit set that's called hens and chickens.
Okay, so if you guys don't know what hens and chickens are, you are not alone, because when we were first talking about Viognier and she started talking about hens and chickens, of course, I'm just imagining literal hens and chickens kind of frolicking through the vineyards.
That's because she has hens and chickens in her backyard.
I do have hens and chickens in my backyard. So, but that is not what we're talking about when we're talking about the grape. So we do have another. Here we go. Let's go ahead to this, which is what hens and chickens look like. And Marta, why don't you go ahead and explain what they really are?
So certain varieties can be prone to this, and even specific clones of the same variety can be prone to this. And sometimes it's weather related, and sometimes it's just inherent within the variety, but it has everything to do with pollination. So the larger berries are the hens, And these are berries that have been fertilized so that there are seeds inside. The smaller berries, however, have not been fertilized. And so those are the chicks. And they don't develop in the same way as the larger berries do. Most growers would probably call these small berries shot berries, as opposed to chicks. But there's often a lot of flavor in these small berries because there's a really high skin to juice ratio. Viognier is really difficult to grow in some regions. And because it is difficult to grow, there is one legend of how it got its name. And that is that it came from the Roman pronunciation of the biblical reference Via Gehennae, which translates as the road from the valley of hell, which might have been a reference to the difficulty in farming this variety.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm glad we still go through the difficulty. It's definitely a gorgeous grape. So with these chickens and hens, looking at the chicks and hens, so we're still gonna go ahead and harvest them, even though they stay like that. We don't have to like get rid of them when they look like that.
No. Those will ripen up. And of course, we're obviously not going to separate the individual berries. It's just that the yields can be much more reduced. You're not going to get the berries aren't going to develop. You're not going to get the berry weight the average berry weight will be down for the entire cluster. So the yields will be lower.
Okay, so that's like, it's almost good for the consumer because we get a little bit more flavor, but bad for the grower.
The grower, right? Yeah, it's probably
bad for Shide, good for us. Okay, alrighty, so let me go ahead and stop sharing that. Alrighty, so again, as you guys know, my main job is to make sure that we are just drinking, and I am ready for some more wine. So let's go ahead and move on to the 2018 GSM. This one I am really excited about, 2018 GSM. So this would be in the shipment if you guys either purchased the package or did the all reds, I believe. So I'm gonna pour myself some of that. Delish. Yeah. So this one is a 2018 vintage, again from the San Lucas Vineyard, and GSM, for those of you who don't know or didn't read the back of the label, stands for Grenache Syrah Mourvedre. And this is going to be a typical Southern Rhone blend. So we talked about the Viognier, we were talking about Northern Rhone, so now we're just going a little bit further south. And a typical Southern Rhone blend doesn't always just have to be a GSM. You could have some Cinsault, some Carignan. There's a few different grapes. We'll talk about that in a little, but ours specifically is going to be 49% Grenache, 32% Syrah, and then 19% Mourvedre. So what we thought would be the best way to kind of break this down is have you guys sip on it, have you guys smell it, see what you guys get. And as we do that, what we'll do is, Marta, you'll go ahead and we'll do a little fancy deconstruction of this, and we'll break down what each grape brings to the variety. So we'll go ahead and start with the Grenache, which is the first letter in this blend here. And why don't you tell us a little bit about Grenache?
So Grenache is probably indigenous to Spain, where it's called Garnacha. And there is a white Grenache. Shide also bottles white Grenache, but there's red Grenache in this blend, obviously. And in Spain, it covers roughly about 15% of the vineyard area in Spain, and it's also widely planted in the south of France. So although we don't see much of it here, it is actually the 7th most popular grape planted in the world. So it's not uncommon.
That's awesome. And with this, like, how long has this been in California?
Well, it originally showed up in about the 1860s, and now in California we have roughly 4,000 acres. Shide Farms 2 acres. In the early part of the 1900s, it was widely planted in the Central Valley, because it can withstand the heat, and it could have been dry farmed. And that's why you'll see widely planted in parts of Australia and South Africa as well.
All right, now what about the next letter? That S stands for Syrah. So tell us a little bit about the Syrah.
The Syrah is a cross between two really obscure French varieties, Mondeuse Blanche and Dureza, and it accounts for less than about 2% of all the grapes that grow in France. But in California, we have almost 15,000 acres planted of this variety, and Scheid farms of just about 200. There are a couple of theories about where this grape originated from. One is that it is native to the Rhone Valley. Another is that it could have been brought back from Iran through France during the Crusades in about 1200. And another thing is, we do know for sure that it made its way to Australia in 1832, where it is widely planted. There it is called Shiraz, as this is thought to have been the city in Iran that the grapes originated from. They have done DNA testing and they have proven that Shiraz and Syrah are the same variety. Pardon me. However, they are not related to Petite Syrah. That is a completely different grape.
Yes, and anybody who actually, I think we tasted the Petite Syrah either in March or May, and that one we did talk about where really the history of the Petite Syrah came from. So tune into our website and you can go back and watch it if you want to know. I have to say, a little off script here, but my first drink that I used to love was Yellowtail Shiraz back when I was 21. And I'm pretty sure I thought that was a completely different grape than Syrah. So, 13 years later, here I am. And
okay, so I'm dating myself now, but I think some people will probably remember Boone's Farm. So
got a lot more thumbs up on that one. Okay, so is there anything specific that you get out of the Syrah?
I often get a lot of floral aromas, a lot of violets, a lot of spice, a lot of pepper. The berries are really small and they're thick skinned, so you'll get a lot of color. You will get some tannin, and it's a really vibrant variety. I really enjoy it. We also make a Cab Syrah blend, which is a really nice wine.
Right, that's our 50-50. Which was released, I believe, in May. We released that one. Okay, so now out of the three, we have I would say the least well-known grape would be probably Mourvedre. I see an R in there. It looks like it's Mourvedre, but every time you pronounce it, you say Mourvedre, so I'm gonna go with that.
That's French.
Okay, all right. So tell us a little bit about Mourvedre.
Well, Mourvedre, like Grenache, probably originated in Spain, and in Spain it's called Monastrell. It arrived in California also in the 1860s, when a lot of our European varieties did. We don't have much of it planted in California. We have about 1,000 acres, and Scheid only has 1.8, so really hardly anything at all. It tends to bud out late, it ripens late, and it can get very high sugars, so it can get really high alcohol. It is thick skinned, so you will get a lot of color and some tannin, but probably due to the farming practices between Europe and California, we tend not to. Our Mourvedre here, for some reason, just does not get as deeply colored as you will if you saw some in France or in Spain.
Okay, and so now we've talked about all three of them separately. So let's go ahead and put it back together, right? And so I'm going to show you guys a photo of Southern Rhone now, because this is really where we're talking about these types of blends. So let's talk a little bit about where the origin of these types of blends come from.
So a GSM is very typical from the Southern Rhone, and especially in the Châteauneuf-du-Pape region. It's called Châteauneuf-du-Pape, or New House of the Pope, because for roughly 70 years in the 1300s, after Pope Clement V was elected, he wanted to operate the papacy out of Avignon, which they did. And he was a Frenchman, and he didn't want to be involved with the politics of Rome, so he picked the whole papacy up and moved it to Avignon, and that's where you get the Châteauneuf-du-Pape. This part of the Rhone region is known for its Grenache blends. In fact, 75% of the vineyards here are Grenache. And although there are 13 varieties, and I think you can see them listed on this map here, that can be grown in this region, including the G, the S, and the M. But it can also include red and white varieties like Cinsault, Counoise, Roussanne, which Scheid also bottles, and Picpoul.
Okay, so, and then like, as we talk about this, I taste it, I get that bright red fruit, I get the plum, I get leather. You know, I don't know if I'm just like tooting our own horn because we love Scheid wine here, but I find like that it's very, very complex. So when you drink this as more of an expert, what do you get from this specific blend, like out of all three of those grapes?
Well, I think because it is a blend, and I think it's probably true with all blends, is that it will be very layered. It will be more complex than maybe a single variety. The Grenache, to me, is the lighter of the three, and you get that bright red fruit, red berry aromas out of that. It will add some weight to the blend and some alcohol, but it won't add tannin. The Syrah will add the black fruit component, the pepper, a lot of the deep dark color that you'll get in this, and tannin. And the Mourvedre adds some structure and some acidity, and it'll give you that aromas of ripe plums and a little bit of leather. Okay,
and so again, GSM, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. This has mostly Grenache and then Syrah, then Mourvedre. Is that always how it would be labeled, from the highest percentage to the lowest percentage? So if somebody went to a grocery store and they saw GSM, does that always mean there's the most of the Grenache and the least of the Mourvedre?
Well, in the United States, it does. And as you mentioned previously, our blend is 49% Grenache, 32% Syrah, and 19% Mourvedre. So it's G, S, and M. But in Australia, where they also do a lot of these Rhone blends, you can find an SGM or even an MSG.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I might steer clear of the MSG, but I'm sure it's delicious. So if somebody, after trying our GSM and they absolutely love it, and now they want to go to a grocery store and have a Southern Rhone blend, what are we looking for? What would be helpful when going to the grocery store to find a blend like this, if this is something that our palate enjoys?
Well, some of you might have attended our wine club discussion on glass and bottle shapes. So I thought I would just add this interesting tidbit about Rhone bottles. So if you go to the Rhone, this is a Burgundy bottle. And a lot of times, if you remember the map of France, the Rhone Valley is just south of Burgundy. And often the Rhone bottles will just be a little bit more squat, but they can often have an embossed crest right up in here. And that crest is the coat of arms for the Holy See, again, from the new house of the Pope. And there will be crossed keys of St. Peter, and they symbolize the keys to heaven.
Okay, and I missed my mark. I was supposed to show the...
Oh, we get to drink.
Yes, okay, yes. Everybody, cheers. Take some sips there, because that was my bad. Late to the mark. Here we go. Okay, so that is on the left-hand side, or I'm not sure what side it would be on your screen, would be the actual design, and then that's the embossed design of it on the right-hand side, which is pretty cool. Alrighty, so yes, everybody drink. If you want, I'll do more mistakes on purpose if you guys you need a buzz a little bit quicker. So I definitely want to talk about food pairing for this wine. I would love if anybody wants to type in what they would pair the GSM specifically with. I'm happy to know what you guys would enjoy this with. I think of what we did when we did our food pairing with the chef. We did the GSM, was a 2017 vintage, but we did it with a chimichurri sauce and a pork loin, and that just absolutely like hit the spot. So I don't know, Marta, what would you pair this with?
Well, I find this to be a really versatile wine because it has the bright fruit, but it also has a lot of weight. I think it'd be great with pasta and pizza, almost anything that has tomato base because of the acidity. I think it would be wonderful with something like eggplant parmesan or even a fattier food such as grilled sausages, something like that. I think it would be really, really, really tasty.
Yeah, I think you could really do whatever. You could kind of just drink this. This one is absolutely fantastic.
just drink it.
This one is really, really lovely. We have lamb. That's what Pam and Melissa said, lamb. Yes. And actually that was what we paired it with. It was a chimichurri and a lamb chop that we put, and it was so good. Yes. And then Ken, pork and Italian food like pasta or pizza over here. Yes, it looks like you guys have a little bit of everything. Again, I don't know. I might be able to look up their address on our system and be there before this ends. That might not be ethical, but you might have a knock on your door in about a half an hour. All right, awesome. I love that. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead, again, empty glasses, everybody, and go to the 2018 Kurtz Cabernet, and this is from our reserve selection. So let's go ahead and pour ourselves some of that. Got the pretty label right there. Okay, and so this one is going to be 100% Cabernet from our Kurtz Vineyard, which makes sense. And what we're going to do for this one, and we might all be drinking some cab real soon because I have to pull up a video now. And while I pull this up and while we have the video, everyone go ahead and just feel free to sip on it. But this is actually a video of Kurtz Vineyard. And Marta is going to explain why it is. So, yeah, now I don't even see you guys. So I think that means drink.
We still see you, so that's good.
I'll make sure not to pick my nose then. All right. Okay, let's go here. Okay, perfect. All right, Marta, if you want to talk a bit about the vineyard, I'll go ahead and play this video.
So this video was shot in late summer at Kurtz Vineyard down in San Lucas. It's just a little over 7 acres total with 8 different Cabernet clones. Each between a half an acre to an acre each. As we come up here to the top, you'll see, there it is, and one of our owl boxes and the Salinas Valley in the background. The slope that you saw is northwest facing, and the rows run up and down the slope. And it's kind of hard to tell from this video, but the spacing is only 5 feet wide. In fact, we had to get a special tractor to be able to farm this vineyard. Standard vine spacing for most of Scheid is between 600 and 800 vines per acre. This vineyard, however, is 1,700 vines per acre. So this close spacing and the soil in this region helps keep the vine vigor in check. And this is part of what helps give us this incredible fruit and gives us the quality of the Cabernet that we get out of this vineyard and lets us winemakers make this beautiful wine.
Awesome. It's so cool to actually like see the vineyard itself and hear about what makes everything a little bit different. So we've saw the vineyard. We know why Kurtz Vineyard. Now you've kind of explained a little bit about why that is special. But I thought we could talk a little bit about who Kurt is. So let's see, I have a photo here. That's Mr. Kurt Golnick, and he is our Chief Operating Officer with Scheid Family Wines. At heart, he would probably just call himself a farmer. I don't know if he probably wouldn't be too big into the titles, but he earned his bachelor's in agricultural business management at Cal Poly. And for about 7 years, he worked as a vineyard manager down in Santa Maria. And then he joined Scheid Family Wines back in 1988. So that was a very special year, obviously, for Scheid Family Wines for 2 reasons. Because one was that they got Kurt, as as an employee, obviously, but also that same year I was birthed, and 33 years later they were going to have me as an employee. So very special year for Shide. I don't know if they know how special it is, but yeah, so that means he has been with the company for 33 years. I can say that pretty confidently. Anyway, so we did reach out to Kurt and we let him know that we were going to be tasting through the wines today. And one of them was going to be the Kurtz cab. So we asked him for a little bit about what the inspiration behind this wine was. And instead of butchering it with a paraphrasing, I'm going to go ahead and just read it from what he emailed us. And he said, the inspiration was simple. I tasted Schaefer's 1994 Hillside Select Cabernet with John Schaefer, and I was blown away. He shared with me details of the vineyard, which completely debunked the theory of extreme temperature differences between night and day, as well as other theories. The slope and temperatures at the site I selected for Kurt's vineyard gave us a great shot at producing wines that could compete with Schaefer. Even though the vineyard is over 10 years old, we still have much to learn about maximizing quality, but it's still an impressive site. So what I absolutely love about this quote, or him sending us this information, is, to me, this is saying that this is only going to get better, that this potential, the potential is great for this to get absolutely better as time goes on. So I think it's just exciting knowing that we haven't even reached the very best it could be. Lisa wants to know, are all 8 clones in the Kurtz cab? That's a really awesome question.
So Cabernet is a late.
No. Did you hear me?
Yes, I did, but it's so my second. It's part of my part of my spiel. So I have to give a little background on it.
Okay, so let's talk about. So we'll get to the clones in Kurtz cab. Let's just talk a little bit about Cabernet, right? And then you can kind of talk about the clones.
Right, because the clones are important. So
okay.
Cabernet is a late ripening variety, and it has really small berries and really thick skin. So you get a lot of that really dark color and a lot of prominent tannins. But Cabernet only has 12 clones worldwide. Here comes the clone part. 12 clones worldwide. Pinot Noir has over 1,000, and because of its genetic instability. But Cabernet only has 12. And we have 8 planted at Kurtz. So every year to make Kurtz, it's a barrel by barrel selection. And some years, some clones don't do very well. We have pulled out one clone and grafted over to a different clone because one clone wasn't doing so well. We just weren't getting very good yields, and the fruit set wasn't very good. So whereas you might be familiar with some of the clone, like in Pinot Noir, such as 667 or 777, the clones in in Cabernet are numbers such as 169, 191, 4, 412, all these different numbers. And so not every year, all eight clones. You will get usually between 4 and 6 of the clones in Kurtz cab each time.
Okay, and we have another question. Somebody is dropping their knowledge about field blends on us.
Oh.
So, the Great House family would like to know, is Kurtz cab a field blend, or are the clones fermented separately?
They are fermented separately, and they are kept separately until we get ready to blend. Overall, cab is a fairly young variety as far as the grape world goes. It's less than 600 years old. It's a cross between Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc, which is, I know, kind of a little odd, but and it's thought to have originated in the Bordeaux region. But just because it's a youngster doesn't mean that it's not very popular. It is the most widely planted grapevine in the world. And also in California, where we have over 45,000 acres of Cabernet planted, and Shide Farms over 900 acres of Cab. So it is a very important variety. It seems very adaptable to all kinds of regions. I think that's one of the reasons that you've seen it so widespread throughout the world.
That's awesome. So, I mean, would this ever be like, would we ever do kind of how we do like a 667? Would we ever do a, like, what were a 412 Cabernet?
Um, Personally, I feel that although each of the clones are very good, I'm not sure one would stand alone. And for instance, in some years in Pinot Noir, the 667 might be good, might not be good. And so only if it's really good would we bottle it as a clone on its own. But I don't think we would be bottling any of Kurt's Cab as a single clone, because sometimes one will offer something that I think that's what's great about blending, is you can fill in all the components by adding and blending back and forth.
It's like my dog, a mutt. You get the best of every single breed in a mutt, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like a mutt.
Oh, yeah, I guess let's not tell Kurt that.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now actually about what we're getting. I mean, definitely get that dark fruit. I get the blackberry. I get a little bit of like a subtle like sweet spice. So I would guess that that's coming from the oak influence.
Yeah, the Cabernet has a really good affinity for oak. That aging in the barrel, that slow oxidation, the flavor components that come out of the barrel really marry nicely with the wine. And this is 100% French oak. 38% of it was new, so you will get a lot of those caramel, toasty oak aromas in this wine.
All right, my favorite part, food pairings. My husband may or may not be on this. I can't tell, but hint, hint, what I'm about to say for my food pairing is kind of what I would like to come home to for dinner tonight. I am thinking a very nice filet with like a balsamic glaze and some caramelized onions. That is what I think, chef's kiss with this right here. So again, hint, hint. If you are listening, that would just really hit the spot for me tonight. But Marta, what would you pair this with?
Chelsea's putting her address up in the chat box. We'll all be over. I agree that steak would really be fantastic with this. And although I find this to be a really elegant wine, I think that it's also really hearty. And I think it could stand up to wild game. And I think the reason I'm thinking about that is because we looked at the owl boxes, and I'm thinking all the everything that the growers have to deal with. And down in San Lucas, they have a lot of wild pigs. In fact, they got 300 in 18 months, I think, at this one particular vineyard. And so they keep the hunters pretty busy because the pigs can get very destructive when they get inside the vineyard. So besides the wild boar, which it would taste really well with, I also think it's one of those wines that would be really good to have on the table at the end of a meal, where you could have a cheese course and you could just sit with conversation and friends and enjoy this red wine, because this is to me a really the perfect cheese pairing wine.
I have to say, you just went from like a fancy charcuterie after dinner to a pig roast for this. So I think let's go ahead and just say that this is a versatile wine. Anybody can find something to pair this with then. Okay, awesome. So anybody, while I do want to talk a little bit about aging with this wine, but if you guys want to type in what you would eat with this, I might, we could have everybody at my house. I don't know, maybe Maryland, they might not be able to make it, but if anybody else wants to type in what they would have with this, I would love to know what you would pair. But I always ask this question, and this question in the tasting room, I'm in the tasting room now, what we get asked is about aging, and especially Cabernet. People always want to know what they would age, how they should age a cab. So if somebody is in the tasting room now, they take home a bottle of this 2018, should they be drinking the 2018 for dinner tonight, or should they be holding on to this for 5-10 years?
So I have read that the average aging for most people for a bottle of wine is 4 hours. Yes, you heard that right. 4 hours. The time it takes you to purchase the bottle, get home, make dinner, and drink the bottle. But seriously, there are those of us who hold on to bottles. And I'm one of them. And I'm sure I have wine in my cellar that is way over the hill. But it brings me a lot of pleasure just to look at the bottles. Maybe I bought it on vacation, or I went traveling, or for an anniversary or something. So I'm one of those people that really needs to open those bottles. And I think we all do. Many of us keep bottles way past their prime, but Kurt's Cab could easily outlive me. It's and different people like different wines at different stages in their life. So what happens to a wine as it ages is when we're drinking it right now, you're getting a lot of that bright blackberry characteristic, and a lot of really rich tannin. And as this ages, what will happen is those black fruit, those fruit components will fade, and the oak components will become to the forefront, as well as leather and like cigar type, box type aromas. And so that the fruit becomes the background instead of the forefront. And I think a lot of it is personal. Some of us really like that bright, fresh fruit, and other people like to see something with some age. So I think this is one of those wines where you need to buy a couple bottles, drink one now, then maybe have one in a year or two, or on down the road, and see how it's developing, because it's really going to change over time.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that answer. I definitely think it's just personal preference and palate. Right now in our tasting room, we're tasting a 2019 Pinot Noir and a 2015 Pinot. And some people prefer the 19. They prefer that bright cherry, that bright fruit. And then other people prefer the kind of characteristics you get from the bottle age, the leather, the forest floor. So it's just, it's whatever kind of like floats your boat. There's no wrong answer, which I think is the beauty of drinking wine, is there's never a wrong answer, which is kind of cool. Miss Siona is, okay, we're barbecuing prawns that were marinated tonight, grilled veggies, pesto, garlic. My gosh, you guys, for a Wednesday night, we are going to town on dinner. All right, original plan was.
Are they local?
Yeah, seriously, I'm not entirely sure where this one is, but we have a few house parties to go to tonight once this is Morro Bay. All right, we'll be there before midnight. Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, well, I would say with this one, at least, like, let's go ahead and we can give a cheers to Kurt for creating this, because it's absolutely fantastic.
Cheers.
So, cheers, Kurt. Thank you. And then, one more thing just about when we talk about aging and all this is we get a lot of questions about the breathing, right? So I personally, with this, about a half an hour ahead of time, I did pour a little bit into a glass to let it open up. But what does it mean to breathe? Like, when do we need to decant a wine? When can a wine just be poured into a glass, drank right away? And when do we need to let it sit in a decanter or in a glass before we should drink it? Why do we even need to do that?
So what breathing means actually is air being incorporated into the wine. And there's lots of ways you can incorporate air into the wine, but it used to be thought that you'd open the bottle and you would set it on the table and then you'd wait. Now, how big is the opening in that bottle? And is the bottle doing anything active? Is it breathing? Is it inhaling or anything? No, it's not. So what breathing, in order to incorporate air, what you have to do is either pour from one bottle into another or into a decanter to incorporate air into the wine. You can also pour it just into a glass, and that in itself is going to incorporate some air. I tend to be one of those swirlers. I'm, some people might back in the day might have been flamboyant smokers. Well, I'm a swirler. I like to be able to have a glass and have a small amount in it and keep swirling it and smelling it, because to me it just keeps changing as the air it gets in the wine and the wine starts to open up. Now, not all wines need to be decanted or aerated in some ways. And for instance, most white wine does not. Most older red wines might be, and in some cases, just to remove the sediment. And I think we've talked a lot about how wine changes from the first glass in the bottle to the last glass in the bottle. So air is just a big part of that change. So I just like to swirl and smell, and my big number one priority is that it the glass be large enough for me to get my nose into.
All right, there you go. Siona knows people that actually do that trick of putting it in a blender to let it breathe.
Yes, I wouldn't recommend that, but you will incorporate a lot of air into that really quickly that way.
And if you don't have a dishwasher like me, you're incorporating the green smoothie that you probably didn't wash out very well before putting your wine in it. So I would be careful about that one. Yeah, and disclaimer with the swirling, we have to keep wine away at our tasting room bar because of the people that like to swirl it and lands right on their white shirt. So always good to have some wine away.
Let me just point out something about the swirling, because I get asked about that often. So I just want you to know that I don't have so if this was on the table, if I swirl and leave the base of the glass on the table, I never have to worry about wine flying out of the bottle. However, if I pick it up and I do this sort of thing, you have to worry about wine flinging out of the glass. So I highly recommend, if you're swirling, to keep it on the table and give it a swirl so that you're not physically doing this kind of motion. That will lead you to the wine away.
Okay, yes. There should be, like, everybody before they come into a tasting room should have to prove that they know how to swirl a glass before they can finish or start their tasting, because we go through a lot of wine away for sure. Okay. So I think that's all we have for the 3 wines that we tasted. Of course, if you guys have any more questions, put in the chat. But the way I want to end this is the past 2 club releases that we did, we talked a little bit about what was going on in the vineyard. So in in March, we talked about bud break. The bud break part of the harvest was going on. And then we had May, and we talked a little bit about flowering, which was kind of cool to get a little information on that. But it's been quite some time since we've done this, and the vineyards have changed quite a bit as well. So right now, I would like to know where we are and what is going on in our vineyards kind of as we speak. I think that could be a kind of fun way to end it off.
So right now, we are about 50% through with harvest. Harvest started late this year, roughly 2 weeks late. We always start in August, but it was a little later in August than normal. We've finished the Sauvignon Blanc, the Pinot Noirs, most of the Chardonnays. Of the varieties that we spoke about tonight, only the Viognier has been picked. Everything else is still hanging. This year they had the Petit Syrah was a little interesting this year. Usually it comes in later in the season, but this year was a little bit earlier. So sometimes it depends on the amount of the yield or what have you, or just of the warmth in that particular region. So the vineyard team expects to wrap up harvest first part of November, which is fairly typical for us. And the last variety, as always, that will come into the winery will be the Cabernet.
Last but not least, that Cabernet. Love it. Do you know if there are going to be any single varietal Cab Francs coming up?
I do not know. That has varied from year to year depending on quality, and often the amount that we have gotten has gone into the claret.
Okay. Have we done a single varietal Cab Franc?
Not for some. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I think we have done a Petit Verdot, but that was probably 12 years ago or something like that.
I remember that library Petit Verdot. That was absolutely fantastic. I know we have one really fun one coming up soon, and I can't remember what it was. So I don't want to say it's Cab Franc because it might not be, but there's a really fun one coming up, I think, on the reserve side that we haven't done in quite some time. So keep an eye out for that. But if you guys don't have any other questions, I do think that kind of wraps things up. Since it was like 6 months since the last one, weirdly enough, November shipment is coming up soon for you guys in like 1 month. So you will see our faces back on this 1 month from now, probably right before Thanksgiving, like a week or two before Thanksgiving. So if there's anything specific you guys want to kind of go over, if there's any food pairings you're interested in, or any Thanksgiving meal and prep ideas, or anything that you guys think might be nice for that one, definitely go ahead and shoot me or Marta an email. I think at this point you guys all have our email addresses, but it has been an absolute pleasure to have you guys back on here and to see you all again. So thank you for your support and for always hopping on here and keeping us entertained. And Sienna said, hope Chelsea's husband buys that steak. If you're still on this, Brandon, you have some pressure now, but I'll go ahead, Marta, and I'll let you kind of close it out.
Oh, well, thank you all for joining us. And it's really lovely to be able to see your faces and to be able to toast together and to friendship and happiness and health. Our warmest wishes to all of you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. See you in a month.
See ya.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.